For almost a century, we were taught the same story about how humans reached the Americas. People walked across a land bridge from Siberia to Alaska around 13,000 years ago. They followed an ice-free corridor through Canada, and they spread across the continent. It was in every textbook, every museum exhibit, every documentary. Then someone found footprints in New Mexico, not stone tools that could be disputed. Actual human footprints, preserved in ancient mud, dated to 23,000 years ago. 10,000 years older than the textbook said was possible. Scientists pushed back. They said the dating must be wrong. Researchers dated the footprints again using completely different methods. Same answer. They dated them a third time. Same answer again. This is the story of how footprints in the desert overturned everything we thought we knew about American history. White Sands National Park in New Mexico is one of the strangest landscapes on Earth. 275 square miles of pure white gypsum sand dunes. But 23,000 years ago, this place looked completely different. During the last ice age, the basin contained a large lake called Lake Otero. The surrounding area was covered in grasslands and conifer forests. It was an oasis that attracted life. Columbian mammoths came to drink at the lake. Giant ground sloths the size of bears foraged in the vegetation. American camels grazed on the prairie. Dire wolves hunted the herds, and humans walked among them. The tracks earned the nickname ghost tracks because they only appeared under specific conditions. When the ground was too wet or too dry, they vanished. It took years before researchers could properly document them. The breakthrough came in 2018. Scientists discovered a remarkable trackway nearly a mile long, the longest fossil footprint trail of its age ever found. It showed a woman or adolescent traveling with a toddler. The child was carried on the hip. You can tell from the way the carrier's feet rotated with each step. Occasionally, the toddler was set down, walked a few steps, then was picked up again. Between the outward journey and the return trip, a giant sloth and a mammoth crossed the pathway. The sloth noticed the human scent and reared up. The mammoth walked straight through without pausing. Someone carried a child across this landscape 23,000 years ago, and we can see exactly where they stepped. In 2021, the research team published their findings in the journal Science. They dated the footprints by extracting ancient seeds from sediment layers directly above and below the tracks. The seeds came from an aquatic plant called rupia that grew in the ancient lake. Radiocarbon dating returned ages between 21,000 and 23,000 years old. The scientific community was skeptical. Here is why. Aquatic plants can absorb carbon not just from the atmosphere, but from dissolved minerals in the water, including ancient carbon from limestone bedrock. That creates what is known as the hard water effect. If a plant absorbs old carbon, it will appear older than it actually is. Critics pointed to a devastating example. In 1947, researchers collected living rupia plants from a spring near White Sands. Those plants were alive and growing. But when dated using the same method, they returned an age of approximately 7,400 years old. If the White Sand seeds were contaminated the same way, the footprints might only be 15,000 years old. Old, but not revolutionary. The researchers knew they needed to prove their dates were correct. In 2023, they tried again with completely different approaches. First, they isolated pollen grains from terrestrial plants, not aquatic seeds. These came from conifer trees that absorbed their carbon directly from the atmosphere. This was extraordinarily difficult. Pollen grains are tiny. To get enough material for a single measurement, researchers collected more than 75,000 individual grains per sample. The results came back. 22,870 years ago, 21,130 years ago. These results were consistent with the original dates. Then they used a completely different method called optically stimulated luminescence. This technique measures the last time quartz grains were exposed to sunlight. It has nothing to do with carbon. The quartz samples showed a minimum age of approximately 21,500 years. In 2025, a third study provided additional confirmation. New locations, multiple independent laboratories, different materials, all produced results from 20,700 to 22,400 years ago. 3 independent methods, seeds, pollen, and quartz, all pointing to the same answer. As one researcher put it, you get to the point where it is really hard to explain all this away. The footprints are 23,000 years old. To understand why this matters, you need to understand what the world looked like 23,000 years ago. It was the last glacial maximum, the coldest period of the last ice age. The Laurentide ice sheet covered most of Canada and extended into the northern United States. The Cordilleran ice sheet covered the Pacific Northwest. Together, these glaciers blocked any overland route from Alaska to the continental interior. The ice-free corridor that supposedly allowed the first Americans to walk south did not exist. It was blocked by ice. The corridor did not open until approximately 13,800 years ago. But humans were already at White Sands 23,000 years ago, 7,000 years before the corridor opened. If they did not walk through the ice, how did they get there? There is another theory, the coastal migration hypothesis. Early humans did not walk to the Americas. They took boats. Along the Pacific coast, from Siberia to South America, productive marine ecosystems existed even during the Ice Age. Kelp forests, shellfish beds, sea mammals, fish, everything coastal people needed to survive. Even when glaciers covered the interior, the coastline remained accessible. People in boats could navigate around the ice, and they could follow resources south. The White Sands footprints do not directly prove coastal migration. They do prove humans were here when the ice-free corridor was closed. That means they came another way. The coast is the most plausible alternative. Other evidence supports this. The Monteverde site in Chile dates to between 14,500 and 18,500 years ago, and it shows clear maritime adaptation. Researchers found seaweed in ancient hearths. Genetic studies show that Native American ancestors diverged from Asian populations between 20,000 and 25,000 years ago. That timing matches the White Sands dates almost perfectly. The Clovis people were not the first Americans. They were just the first we could easily see. Beyond the dating, the footprints reveal extraordinary details about life 23,000 years ago. Researchers identified 61 distinct prints across 7 soil layers. People returned to this lakeshore repeatedly over approximately 2,000 years. Based on size, most prints were made by teenagers and children rather than adults. Researchers believe this reflects division of labor. Adults performed skilled tasks while younger people handled carrying and fetching. The most remarkable finds show interactions between humans and megafauna. One trackway appears to show an ancient hunt. Human footprints appear directly inside giant sloth tracks. One person followed closely behind the animal, matching its stride for more than 10 paces. The sloth eventually rose on its hind legs in a defensive posture. A second person approached from the side on tiptoe. We do not know if the hunt succeeded. But this is the best direct evidence of interactions between humans and Ice Age megafauna found anywhere in the world. There's also evidence of children playing in puddles formed by giant sloth footprints. They splashed in mud, moments unchanged across 23,000 years. Despite all we have learned, questions remain. Where are the artifacts? 61 footprints across 2,000 years of occupation, but no stone tools, no fire pits, no camps. Stone tools. Part of the explanation may be the gypsum. The same mineral that preserved the footprints destroys bone. If these people used bone tools, they would be gone. Stone tools might be buried deeper than excavations have reached. Gypsum. Who were these people? We cannot answer this. There is no DNA, no cultural artifacts. They may be ancestors of later indigenous populations, or they may represent a ghost population that eventually died out. Kim Charlie, an enrolled member of the Pueblo of Acoma, visited the site and said it simply, thousands and thousands of years ago, our ancestors walked this place. Ancestors. For almost a century, the story was settled. Clovis first, 13,000 years ago. Ice-free corridor, Clovis first. Then footprints appeared in the New Mexico desert. Footprints. Clear human prints with heels and arches and toe pads. Dated once, questioned, dated again with different methods, same answer. Dated a third time, same answer. Clear prints, 23,000 years old. 23. 3 independent methodologies. multiple laboratories, over 55 consistent measurements. The probability that all of them are wrong in exactly the same way is vanishingly small. 3. Independent. The Clovis first model is dead. Humans were here during the last glacial maximum. They came by another path, the coast, by boat, following the kelp highway from Asia to the Americas. Coast. And they were not just surviving, they were hunting giant sloths, playing on muddy lake shores, raising children in a world filled with mammoths and lions. Hunting. For 2,000 years, they returned to this place, generation after generation, leaving footprints that would wait 23 millennia for us to find them. Returned. The textbooks are being rewritten. The story of how humans reached the Americas has changed forever, and it started with footprints in the sand. Footprints.